The Philippine-American War, fought from 1899 to 1902, was a bitter and brutal conflict that arose in the wake of the Spanish-American War. Driven by Filipino resistance to U.S. annexation of the Philippines, this war marked a significant and controversial chapter in the history of American imperialism. The conflict ultimately resulted in the United States establishing control over the Philippines, leading to a prolonged and often oppressive occupation that deeply impacted both nations. Causes of the conflict. The Philippine-American War was rooted in the complex aftermath of the Spanish-American War and the subsequent Treaty of Paris. Filipino resistance to annexation. The Philippines, which had been a Spanish colony for over 300 years, became a focal point of conflict when the United States acquired the archipelago following its victory over Spain in 1898. Filipino revolutionaries, who had been fighting for independence from Spain under leaders like Emilio Aguinaldo, viewed U.S. annexation as a betrayal of their struggle for self-determination. These revolutionaries had hoped for independence after the defeat of Spain, not the imposition of another colonial ruler. Treaty of Paris, 1898. The Treaty of Paris, signed on December 10, 1898, officially ended the Spanish-American War. Under the terms of the treaty, Spain ceded the Philippines to the United States in exchange for $20 million. This transfer of sovereignty was conducted without the consent of the Filipino people, leading to widespread resentment and opposition. The treaty was met with fierce resistance in the Philippines, where revolutionaries led by Aguinaldo declared independence and sought to establish a sovereign nation. Clash of cultures and ideologies. The conflict was also fueled by a clash of cultures and ideologies. American leaders, influenced by the belief in manifest destiny and the perceived duty to civilize other nations, saw the annexation of the Philippines as an extension of American power and a means of spreading democracy, capitalism, and Christianity. In contrast, the Filipino revolutionaries sought to preserve their culture, maintain their autonomy, and establish a government free from foreign control. This ideological divide heightened tensions and made reconciliation difficult. Duration and major campaigns. The Philippine-American War lasted for 3 years, involving numerous battles, guerrilla warfare, and significant casualties on both sides. Outbreak of War, February 1899. The war began on February 4, 1899, when a skirmish between American and Filipino forces near Manila escalated into a full-scale conflict. The clash occurred just days before the U.S. Senate ratified the Treaty of Paris, signaling the official start of the war. Initially, Filipino forces, under Aguinaldo's command, employed conventional military tactics, hoping to engage American troops in traditional battles. Shift to guerrilla warfare. After suffering defeats in conventional battles, including significant losses in Manila and surrounding areas, Filipino forces shifted to guerrilla tactics by late 1899. This phase of the war involved small, mobile units conducting hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and raids on American forces. The guerrilla strategy leveraged the Filipinos' intimate knowledge of the local terrain and their ability to blend into civilian populations, making it challenging for U.S. forces to distinguish combatants from non-combatants. This shift prolonged the conflict and made it increasingly brutal. American response. In response to the guerrilla warfare, the U.S. military adopted harsh counterinsurgency measures. These included the establishment of concentration camps, referred to as reconcentration camps, where civilians were forcibly relocated to prevent them from aiding guerrilla fighters. The U.S. also implemented scorched earth policies, destroying crops, livestock, and villages to deprive the guerrillas of resources. Widespread reprisals against civilians suspected of supporting the insurgents became common, leading to significant civilian suffering and deaths. The use of waterboarding, referred to as the water cure, and other forms of torture by U.S. forces further tarnished the American campaign. Capture of Emilio Aguinaldo, March 1901. The capture of Emilio Aguinaldo by American forces in March 1901 was a significant turning point in the war. Aguinaldo was captured in a daring operation led by General Frederick Funston, who used Filipino collaborators to infiltrate Aguinaldo's camp. Aguinaldo's capture dealt a severe blow to the Filipino resistance, leading to the eventual collapse of organized opposition. Aguinaldo was later compelled to swear an oath of allegiance to the United States, effectively marking the end of his leadership in the independence movement. The end of the war. The Philippine-American War officially ended in 1902, although sporadic fighting and resistance continued in some areas for several years. The U.S. declared victory after Aguinaldo's capture and the suppression of most major guerrilla operations. The Philippines was placed under American control as an unincorporated territory, governed by a colonial administration that sought to implement American-style reforms while maintaining strict control over the population. Outcome and legacy. The outcome of the Philippine-American War had profound and lasting implications. U.S. control over the Philippines. The United States established control over the Philippines, leading to a prolonged occupation that lasted until 1946. During this period, the U.S. implemented various reforms, including infrastructure development, the establishment of a public education system, and the introduction of American legal and political institutions. However, the occupation was also marked by ongoing resistance, unrest, and efforts to suppress Filipino nationalism. Significant casualties and human suffering. The war resulted in significant casualties, with estimates of Filipino deaths ranging from 200,000 to 1 million, including both combatants and civilians. Many deaths were caused by combat, disease, famine, and the harsh conditions in concentration camps. The war also left deep psychological scars on both the Filipino population and American soldiers, many of whom were unprepared for the brutal realities of guerrilla warfare and counterinsurgency operations. Debate over American imperialism. The war sparked a significant debate in the United States over the ethics and implications of imperialism. Critics of the war, including prominent figures like Mark Twain, Andrew Carnegie, and members of the Anti-Imperialist League, argued that the U.S. was betraying its own principles of liberty and self-determination by subjugating another people. Supporters of the war, on the other hand, saw it as a necessary step in America's rise as a global power and as a means of spreading American values and influence. Legacy of resistance. The Philippine-American War left a lasting legacy of resistance and nationalism in the Philippines. Despite the U.S. victory, the desire for independence remained strong among Filipinos. The struggle for independence continued through various movements and uprisings, ultimately leading to the granting of independence to the Philippines on July 4, 1946. The war also served as a precursor to future conflicts in which the U.S. would confront guerrilla warfare and anti-colonial movements, such as the Vietnam War. Conclusion. The Philippine-American War was a tragic and complex conflict that highlighted the contradictions of American imperialism and the fierce desire for independence among the Filipino people. While the United States emerged victorious, the war left deep scars on both nations and raised enduring questions about the costs and consequences of empire. The war's legacy continues to resonate in the history of U.S.-Philippine relations and in the broader context of global struggles for independence and self-determination. As a pivotal moment in the history of both countries, the Philippine-American War serves as a reminder of the challenges and moral dilemmas that accompany the pursuit of power and the fight for freedom. If you like videos like this, please subscribe and click that notification bell. Thanks for watching This and That News.